Do you like winning chess games in 5 moves? Do you enjoy aggressive openings that lead to big attacks? Do you like chess memes? If you answered yes to one of these 3 questions, then this is the video for you. I introduce to you, my friends, the Tennison Gambit, and specifically, the Intercontinental Ballistic Missile variation, named after a very funny chess video that came out some months ago from the YouTube channel Bosnian Ape Society. It's a very funny video. You should totally check it out. Not yet. I'll put it in the description. You could watch it after. Very short video where a missile explodes the chessboard at some point. Maybe that doesn't even happen. I don't want to spoil the video, but it's quite funny. And if you notice, by the way, the chessboard is completely messed up in that video as part of the meme, I think. The point is that this gambit is for the white pieces, and it goes after the Scandinavian defense e4, d5, knight f3. But here's the thing. Here's my idea. When you play e4, and they don't play the Scandinavian, I mean, you're not going to face the Scandinavian a lot, right? So I think actually a better way to do this is actually start the game with knight f3. If they don't play d5, and they just copy you, then you can turn the game into a handful of things. For example, you can go for a London system, and then maybe even play like a knight c3 and try to play for e4. Just mix it up. You can also play a reverse Stafford Gambit, maybe like e4 take, something like this if you really like the Stafford Gambit, or a reverse Jalalabad. The options are there for you after knight f3, knight f6. But let's say d5 and e4, okay? You can leave it up to you to decide. Most people here are going to take this pawn, because if they don't, I mean, they can actually turn the game into like a Caro-Kann or a French, but we'll look at that later. They take your pawn, and you play the move knight to g5. Now, of course, why is it called the Intercontinental Ballistic Missile variation, right? That's why you're here. You're still waiting to know that. Because of this, I'm going to show you straight up the variation, why it's named this. If black plays the move knight to f6, a very natural move, you will gambit another pawn with the move d3. Okay, black has a few options here, but let's say black takes the pawn. You will then respond with the bishop. Now black will look around and go, you know what? I really don't like this knight. It's very annoying, it's unnerving, I want it to go away. Shoo! h6. Except for the fact that in this position, there is no shoo. Knight takes f7. For king, the queen, and the rook. And after king f7, you have bishop g6 check. Discovered attack on the queen. And after king takes bishop, queen takes queen, the Intercontinental Ballistic Missile. The queen flies down the board and picks up the queen on d8. You're completely winning in this position. I leave it up to you. I will just show you one more trick in this position. If black plays the move e5, don't take the bishop, because if you take the bishop, there is a check on b4, and you lose your queen. And oh my god, how embarrassing would that be? I just saved you. I know I just saved you from some embarrassment. You would have gotten this far. You would have been ready to put your game in the comments. You would have taken the bishop before. You would have been like, oh my god, why didn't Levy put that in the YouTube video? But I did, so now you have nothing to say. I put it, instead of taking the bishop, you should just take the pawn. You're up a queen. If you can't win a game up a queen, well, let's be honest, I probably can't win a game up a queen. So, look, that's why I make YouTube videos. You have to win the game up a queen. I just have to make YouTube videos. So, that's the Intercontinental Ballistic Missile variation. Now, first things first. Let's continue on this knight f6, right? Let's continue. I'll show you the other stuff that's possible here. For example, this can happen and there's no h6. There's no h6. It doesn't happen. Instead, black plays like knight c6, for example. The queen is protected. Sorry, the queen is protected. This doesn't work anymore. There are some ways that it can still work, like for example c6. I don't know why they would play that move, but if they do play that move, you can still play knight takes f7. But as long as the king guards the queen, even e6, you can't do this, because very tragically, because they played e6, bishop b4 is now an opportunity. So they have bishop to b4. What I like to do, and the way I like to play these positions, is, for example, there's positions where the bishop can be on g4, but if you play like d3, take, and then e6, for example, in this kind of a position, I like to just develop my second knight, bring my queen out to f3, even as early as this move. I'll bring my queen to f3. I'll develop my knight. For example, I'll develop my knight. I've had people castle here. I'll play bishop f4, and I'll castle long. And I've had some very interesting games like this, where for the cost of one pawn, you know, if black ever plays a move like h6, you best be sure ain't nobody moving that knight. First of all, there's bishop to h7 in this position, winning the queen. But let's say, you know, black covers up the queen or something. We going for h4. That's what we're doing. We're also going for knight takes h7, for example. And after take, here, there is this check. So there's all sorts of tactics. But generally, the way I play this is I'll play h4, g4. I'll just go pounding away on the king side. h4, g4, and go for long castle, even for the cost of one pawn. That's if they, you know, take all the way down. And then they don't play h6. The drawback, the major drawback of this system is they can play h6 now, before they take on d3. So this is great, all right? If you want to do this, this is great. But now is the part where I'm going to fill in other weapons for you to play this gambit successfully. The problem with this is that you've got nothing better than this. And frankly, you know, this is completely fine, but this is kind of boring, and I would never recommend something where on the 7th move of the game, you've traded a queen and a knight. I mean, let's be serious. What are we, super GMs? So that's the only drawback. If you're finding that this keeps happening to you, this h6, and then, well, then you're going to have to change it up, okay? Against knight f6, I have another weapon for you. Against knight f6, the move bishop to c4. This is a very good move because these pieces team up, and black really in this position should play the move e6. They are now blocking out their bishop, which is good for us. We play knight c3, so we have two knights attacking the pawn on e4. And we're going to win that pawn. If black tries to play a move like queen d4, we play queen e2. This is always going to be the move, guards this. This is going to be one. We're going to pick up that pawn. In a perfect world, what this looks like is something like this, where we win back this pawn, and then we take the center with a move like d4. I've won a lot of games here where if black plays like natural looking moves, like maybe b6, you can either castle short or even castle long. So you play like queen e2, bishop f4, and castles. And then bishop back to d3 and start, again, this kind of h4, g4 kind of attack on the king side. Give it a shot. These positions are actually quite fun to play. The positions where you just surround the knight with the pawn with the two knights on g5 and c3, easily win the pawn back, queen to e2, pawn to d4, very comfortable position for white. So you have the Tennison Gambit, but I don't want to just leave that to be the video. Bishop c4 is also a great move, threatening f7. The most critical move on the Tennison Gambit, by the way, if you still want to play it, is the fact that there's bishop to g4. This actually is the biggest problem. And this position is just completely fine for black. Completely fine. You can still play it in a very similar way, like I described, by, you know, getting the castle going and something like this. But I would say that more often than not, if you're running into problems, the Tennison Gambit with, you know, the ICBM probably might not work. But this one definitely will with this version of it. So take, knight g5, and then surrounding like this. Now, black can also play the move bishop to f5, which you will face. Okay, I'm going to give you the wild option. You've got the wild option here, and you got the more solid option. Okay? Here's your wild option, g4. That's the wild option. Bishop g6, bishop g2. In this position, a lot of people will go here because they want to defend their pawn. In this position, you have another wild option. You can play knight c3, attacking this pawn, or you can play h4 to try to go h5. And one of my favorite things here is if black plays the move h6. h4 is objectively not very good because black can play h5, which is why I would recommend going knight c3. But there's a very cool line here like this. If they play h6. Take. 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 What is that? That is the ugliest set of pawns I have ever seen. And you can do this to your opponents if you play into this system. Of course, h5 is the best move for black. So after g4, you can, you know, go back to just surrounding the pawn. And then later, maybe you play h4, or you just win this, and then you kind of go about your business. That's the wild way to play g4. But we have other ways. We have knight c3, and if black plays the move knight f6, remember, the difference with the other version is we would have already played bishop c4. Here we have d3. That's the point. You say, why? What? Huh? Take. Queen f3. Now attacking the bishop and this pawn. Some people will freak out here. They might even play the move bishop to c8. At that point, we take. If h6, we bring the knight back. And again, we have a position where we're down a pawn, but we're 2 moves away from doing exactly what we want. We're going to castle, we're going to develop our dark squared bishop, and we're going to be completely okay. So I've had that happen as well. Queen c8 is another move you'll face because people don't want to lose either of these pieces. Against this, you can take, and play queen takes. You're a pawn down, but you get quick development. I mean, you can play bishop f4, again, long castle, h4, and so on. But there's other options on queen c8. For example, you can take with a c pawn if you don't want to trade. The computer's not going to love it, but it is an option for you. You can also just develop another piece. Give them this, and then just go completely insane. But this is not engine-backed. This is just if you are really feeling wild and want to sacrifice 3 pawns for very skeptical compensation. But it's still, you know, it's still... There are still some tricks. There are still some tricks. Like, really, if you look around this position, it's not the easiest thing to play with black, considering all of the pieces are on the back rank. And again, here's another example. If you play bishop to e3 and get this same position, queen, bishop, knight, there are tactics here. Like, for example, knight takes f7, king takes f7, and queen takes f5. And there's the pin and pressure here. So there are looming tactics kind of everywhere in this system. If you play knight f3, d5, and e4. But of course, we have to also look at, you know, the French and these kinds of things. d4 is just a very bad move because you play here. Now you're developing 2 pieces and they've developed none, so you're quite a bit better. Not to mention, probably the best move is just to go c3, attack the pawn. You're very happy here. You're just doing quite well. So c3 is very good. I mean, if they play the French, you can play the 2 knights French. The idea behind the 2 knights French being that, for example, if knight f6, e5, knight d7, d4 is the main line, and then you take. If they take back, you play like bishop d3, for example. And they've got to be very careful here. Castling can get Greek gifted. The Greek gift sacrifice with knight g5 check. Queen comes. This is protected because of the bishop. Knight g5 and queen h5 is just completely winning for white. That's just one way. I'm just kind of, you know, we got to kind of speed run this, these variations here. The other thing is the Caro-Kann. I mean, against the Caro-Kann, again, you got options. You can play e5, which is the advance, which will then become just a annoying pressure for you against your opponent. And again, even here, you can play the 2 knights. And then different variations would arise after that. More often than not, they're going to take your pawn. They're going to take the pawn on e4, giving you an opportunity, a golden opportunity, to play the Intercontinental Ballistic Missile variation. If you do play this, put it in the comments below. Figured I would make a short video here for you today on this kind of cool idea. I've caught so many people with this. Even I haven't caught like FMs and IMs in blitz in this because they do see knight takes f7. You 100% will. I've actually just gotten that position down a pawn and castle queen side and just go for a big attack on the king side. Somehow works every time. Either I'm good or the gambit's good. Or, I don't know. People who I'm playing are bad.